You all set?
I'm all set.
Okay.
Should have brought your gong downstairs, I missed the gong. Maybe next week.
Remember that. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Well, behind the screen.
Good morning and welcome back to our first service of reconvening and worshiping together again for the first time in a long time. It's good to see you all. Let's begin our worship by listening to the girls sing, "Come, Christians, join to sing." Make sure you do not join to sing, but listen to them as they welcome us back again.
I'm reading this morning from Psalm 145, verses 8 through 14. The Lord is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, and rich in love. The Lord is good to all. He has compassion on all he has made. All you have made will praise you, O Lord. Your saints will extol you. They will tell of the glory of your kingdom and speak of your might, so that all men may know of your mighty acts and the glorious splendor of your kingdom. Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and your dominion endures through all generations. The Lord is faithful to all his promises, and loving toward all he has made. The Lord upholds all those who fall, and lifts up all who are bowed down.
Thank you, Dan. Well, we haven't had time to share our joys and concerns for a long time.
Hi, everybody. You're beautiful. I was thinking yesterday as I was watching fireworks from New York, this is the first year, Memorial Day, 4th of July, that my dad's not here. So I'm wearing a pin that he got when he was in the Navy. And so I'd like all of you to stand and salute my dad, if you would. Take it away.
Robert.
That was a little hard to follow, but mine's a little lighter. Today's my mother's birthday.
Oh.
45. And also, I had an appointment with my oncologist 2 weeks ago, and I'm finished with my medication after 3 years. And I have to have CT scans twice a year now, and I should be good to go after maybe a couple more years.
Well, Jerry and I are very happy to be back and to see all of you. We love you all. And our brother-in-law, Ty, who we've asked you to pray for many times, has finally been diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he's really struggling with the side effects of the medications, of the cancer, having a very, very difficult time. So please pray, continue to pray for him. Thank you.
Morning. It isn't very often that we get to brag about one of our brothers in Christ, but I'm going to do so today. I really want to thank Randy Melo, my boss, and my other boss, Jeremy, for keeping the office going. That was huge for the women in my office, and for me personally, as a single woman, you know, I would rather have the job than be on unemployment. And I just think he deserves praise. I don't know that he'll ever hear it, but I just really feel blessed that I work for somebody who cared enough to keep everybody going. And so I just want to do a shout out for Randy.
I have a great grandson whose birthday is today. He's in the Air Force. He's down in Georgia. And I kind of worry about it because when this virus first started out, there was 1 or 2 on the base who were sick.
Back door. I don't need that thing. I know I don't need that. I got a down home voice and everybody can hear me. This, the first big holiday, and I've lost Juanita. And I miss her terribly. I also miss my kids in school. They were the joy to me. And my therapy. When we started back in September, I really miss them. I'll be so glad we get back in September.
Hope you do.
I hope so too. Okay. Have a good day, everybody.
For our offering today, rather than have somebody distribute, Lincoln's going to play something, as Lincoln does. And so the plates are up here, and we'll ask if you just bring your offering forward. Just remember to keep your distancing. You're used to it. We didn't put any lines on the floor like we have at the stores, but just keep your 6 feet distance. And see Jack like to redecorate things here.
He was offering himself.
So as Lincoln plays, let's bring our offerings to God. Just pretend, don't sing. Yeah? You volunteered for both, right? I know you hear about it.
Oh, that's good. Okay, the reading is from Zechariah, but it's verses 9 through 10. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, daughter of Jerusalem. See your kings come to you, righteous and having salvation, gentle and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. I will take away the chariots from Ephraim, and the war horses from Jerusalem, and the battle bow will be broken. He will proclaim peace to the nations. His rule will extend from sea to sea, and from the river to the ends of the earth.
Beautiful job. Okay, so Zechariah, not a book you very often go, but you probably do recognize that behold, your king is coming on a donkey. That one is used on Palm Sunday very often. But there was another phrase in here, in this scripture. Every week I'm given 4 scriptures to pick from. I don't have to do it, but I use a structure that gives me 4 choices. And some of the other ones were pretty tempting, but as I read this passage of scripture over, there was a term in here. He addresses the people as prisoners of hope. And I could not leave that phrase alone. I couldn't get it out of my head. I couldn't move past it. I couldn't think of anything else. And even if I tried to focus on the other scriptures, it just came back to that one phrase, prisoners of hope. Now, what an expressive, what a beautiful way to describe our faith, our walk with God. We are prisoners of hope. And so I want to just talk a couple of minutes about what that means to be a prisoner of hope. Zechariah was a prophet who spoke to the people, those who had returned from the exile and those who were still returning from the exile. So, as you will remember, in 586 or so BC, the people of Israel, the people of Jerusalem, were taken up lock, stock, and barrel and deported into Babylon. They call this the exile, and the Babylonian exile. It's often referred to that way in the Bible and in other books. And they were there for 2 generations, or what they considered 2 generations, about 80, between 80 and 100 years they were there. And of course today, that's not 2 generations, that's 8 generations. We go by decades, right? You're a child of the 60s, or you're the 70s, or you're the 80s. Every generation is a decade. Back then it was 40 years to make the switch. We really compressed things in this day and age. So, but anyway, it's 80 years, 2 of their generations gone. And then they were given permission to come back. And so people came back, and first there was a big group, and then they kept making their way back. Some chose to stay. They were doing very well in Babylon, and business was good over there, and so they stayed. But many of them came back. And Zechariah was one of the prophets who met them at Jerusalem as they were returning. And as these people were returning, they returned in pretty rough shape. The ones who had been there for a little while recognized that the whole city, the whole area was leveled. It was nothing but a pile of rubbish. The city that they had, and of course none of them had ever seen it. They'd only heard about it. Their grandfathers told stories about how beautiful Jerusalem was, and what the wall was like, and what the temple was like, and what the palace was like. But it was all torn down, it was all burned up. So these people came back sort of with this vision in their mind, and they realized there's no temple, there's no wall, there's no city, it's just a big pile of rocks. So they met with that. Plus, as you could imagine, there were people there who had stayed, or who hadn't gone, or who had moved in. And they had no idea that these people were going to come back and suddenly restore what they thought was theirs. You can just imagine if we all, let's say the entire city of Belfast decided, this isn't going to be a good place to live. Let's all move up to Eastport. We all move up to Eastport. Now, that is exile if there ever was anything up there. So we all move up there, and then our grandchildren decide, it was better back in Belfast. Let's go back. So they troop down from Eastport to come back to Belfast. Well, what are they going to find? They're going to walk in, so this is my grandfather's house. Well, it isn't anymore. I've been here for 50 years. It's that kind of thing. So there were people there who were resistant to these people coming back. And the ones who were just returning, they were exhausted on top of it all. This trip from Babylon to Jerusalem was roughly 1,000 miles. It took people in those days about 3 months to make it from Babylon to Jerusalem. It's the equivalent of setting out on foot with your grandparents, and with your babies, and with all the family, whatever belongings you have, and decide, I'm going to move from here to Chicago.
Yeah.
On foot. Carrying the ones who are sick, or the ones too small to walk, or the ones whose legs get tired. It would take a good 3 months to get there. And so when you get there, you're exhausted. You're exhausted. And that's what these people came. So Zechariah meets them at their entry point, and he has this prophecy, among others. And recognizing their exhaustion, and recognizing their discouragement, and recognizing that what they thought was going to be is not what it is, recognizing that they were up against it, he gives them this message of hope. This message of hope. And hope is not something you kind of wish for. But hope, as the Bible uses the word hope, is expectation, absolute assurance that this is going to happen. That it's something you can build your life on, you can build your life around. You don't hope that maybe it doesn't rain tomorrow. It's not that kind of hope. A hope that says this is a solid rock foundation. And he gives them the 3 points of hope that they were prisoners of. We'll talk a little bit later about prisoners, but first let's get the 3 aspects of hope. First of all, he talks about the king coming in on a donkey. And of course, the New Testament writers used this passage to apply to Jesus when he rode into Jerusalem on the donkey. And people were waving palms and spreading their clothes, but that was because that's all they had. There were a few branches from the trees and their shells on their backs. That's all they had to celebrate. Over on the other side of the city, where Pilate was coming in, Pontius Pilate enters the city with 2 battalions of soldiers and chariots and horses and spears and swords and fire and all the glory and pomp that political leaders love to have. That was Pontius Pilate. So when Jesus comes in on this donkey, he's doing the exact opposite. And that's why they apply it to him, and that's why Zechariah puts it into this prophecy to make the point that when God enters the scene, God works quietly, humbly, peacefully, almost silently. That this hope that we have for God to be in our lives is not going to happen with fanfare and loud noises and lightning bolts and thunder and all the rest of fireworks. It's not going to look like 4th of July. When God comes in, it looks like somebody riding a donkey. I don't know if donkeys even can run. I don't think I've ever seen a donkey run, but it's not a proud beast, you know. It kind of mopes along, and that's the way God comes in humility. It speaks of humility. The second thing about this hope is he says that as God comes in, he will bring peace to the nations. Peace to the nations. Boy, that one seems like a bit of a stretch. And it always has, really. I don't know that there's ever been a time in history when we can point to and say, at this time, the world was at peace. I don't think so. The Romans said that they did, the peace of Rome, but of course the peace of Rome there was hardly a bloodier time of history than when Rome was in control. They called it peace, but it was peace by the sword. It wasn't real peace for everybody. No, peace is, as the peace of God would have it, is not the victory of one culture over another or one nation over another. God's peace is the reconciliation of all peoples. And that's kind of a hard one to think of. It was hard for these people in Israel to think of that. For centuries, Israel, the people of Israel believed that when peace came to the world, Israel would be in charge. Right? The line would be David's line. David would be that there would be a king of Israel, and the king of Israel would rule everything. And that would be peace. Not too far removed from Rome or Greece or any of these other empires that established themselves as the peacemakers. We in the good old US of A have a little trouble with that, thinking peace on earth probably means that we will be in charge, that we will win all these battles. But peace of God does not come through a given culture or a given nation. It is a way of establishing cooperation and reconciliation among all peoples, among all races, among all geographic areas, among everything. That is the peace of God. So the hope is that God quietly and humbly enters the world and establishes this peace that we all hope for and long for. The third part of this hope is that it isn't a localized event. He talks about the peace of God stretching from sea to sea, which is kind of an American expression. It's kind of odd that it would show up in this because in Israel, in Jerusalem, there is no sea to sea. You have the Mediterranean Sea, and then you have infinite land going all the way over to, I suppose, to China. But this expression shows here sea to sea, and then also from the river across everything. So it's a way of talking, it's a way they spoke to mean every place, everything. That God's rule of peace does not have boundaries. And that would be true not only of physical boundaries, but also of boundaries in knowledge. Sometimes we feel like we know too much, we're going to be against God. Or if science advances too far, they're undermining or undercutting our belief in God. But this is teaching us that that all knowledge has its root in God. And we needn't fear that. I think the same thing is true geographically. There are places, infinite amount of places where the presence of God can be felt. And we live within just a few footsteps of one of those places, right here on the bank of the water. If you walk down here and sit on one of those benches or sit on the grass and look out over that harbor, and you don't feel the presence of God, then I would suggest, I don't know what to tell you, come back in here and pray and then go do it again. Because God is there. It's beautiful. It doesn't matter what time of day, it doesn't matter what's happening down there, it doesn't matter who's sailing in, who's sailing out. It doesn't matter because the peace and presence of God is so alive there. But I used to feel the exact same way when Lynn and I were first married, and our first church was up in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. And that's where we learned to hike, and we climbed those mountains, and we just loved those mountains. And it wasn't too long before you recognized, I love to climb these trails, and I love to look out over these vistas, but there's more in all of this than just exercise and a nice view, a scenic view. It feels like we're touching God. It feels like God is touching us when we're up in these mountains. There's a spirit that's there that is surpassing what normal experience would tell us. And we've always felt that way about those mountains. And we always will, and others have felt the same way. God is in the mountains. God is here by the sea. God is in the garden. All of these places, there aren't any boundaries. That's the point that Zechariah is making. So he says, this hope that we have, it's threefold. Humbly and quietly, God brings peace, and God brings the divine presence to all, without boundaries. And that is a wonderful thing, and that is our conviction. But it's not something that we just sort of believe, like we do a truth or a math equation or something. It's not something like that. It's not that kind of truth. It's the kind of truth that we can live by. The kind of truth that we can organize our lives around. It's the kind of truth that lends itself to that biblical word of hope. That with all of that assurance, we know that this is going to happen. That this is happening right now. That as we sit here, God is quietly bringing about peace and bringing about God's presence throughout the world. And that is something to live by. That's why he calls it prisoners of hope. Because you can't get away from it. You can't get away. You can't get away. You can't be discouraged for very long. You can't look at things and say, oh no, not this. Well, I shouldn't say you can't. You can do that for a moment. But being a prisoner of hope, always you come back to that. Always you come back to that. It looks kind of bad. It looks kind of messy. It looks like we're going in the wrong direction. But the promise of God says, no, I'm working through this. I'm moving through this. I'm helping through this. And so that is what we look for based on that promise. So I just, with 3 quick things to finish up. 3 quick things, practical things to do about this hope that lives within you. As a prisoner of hope, look, number 1, look for that presence of God. Actively look for it. Seek it out. The second thing is to work for it. Look for it and work for it. Never be ashamed or never hesitate to say, I'm going to do the peaceful thing here. I'm going to extend God's love in this situation. I'm going to take even if it's a small, tiny little thing, I'm still going to do that because that little act that we do fits into that huge, big plan of God. And then the third thing is to be happy. To be happy about it. You know, we have enough depression and discouragement in this world, and we don't need to buy into that. We don't need to feel that. We know what direction we're headed. We know what God is doing, and so we're entitled to happy lives and happy days. So let that optimism, let that presence of the Spirit fill you in the morning, noon, at night. And if you feel yourself running a little dry, just walk down to the harbor. God's there waiting for you. Michael goes down there. You might even see Michael there. He goes down there all the time, and he just sits there, and he absorbs. He tells me he does it no matter what the weather is, even when it's cold. I haven't tested that claim as yet. But there are places where God can remind you, don't fret, don't worry, I've got things under control. I'm moving quietly, peacefully toward a resolution to all this. I'm moving quietly toward a life filled with the presence of the Spirit. And that is our hope.
This is a day of new beginnings, time to remember and move on, time to believe what God is bringing, laying to rest the pain that's gone.
On the night in which he was betrayed, Jesus took bread. When he had blessed it, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, and he said, "This is my body which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me."
Yeah. I didn't call you. Yeah.
In the same way, after they had eaten, Jesus took the cup and said, "This cup is the new covenant of my blood. As often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim my death until I come again." Let us close in prayer. Gracious God, we thank you for your presence with us. Even through these months when we've been separated one from another, we have recognized you're still with us, still in us. Not only in our own selves, our inner selves, but also flowing freely between us, even though we were not seeing each other. Felt the connection, we knew you were there. And we ask that as you have blessed us in this service, you will continue to bless us in this week that follows, and bring us again safely next week. For we give ourselves to you in Jesus' name. Amen. Remember, no gathering in groups. We'll see you all next time.
Thank you.